Hello there, friend. I believe we've met before, but my name is Murad Ziadeh. And lately, something's been coming to mind for me. It's something that I'd always not always had in mind, but considered recently, just with what's been going on, and that is inspiration. Like, because think about when you're going into a business or a career path down the road, or say, for example, media, which is something I'm interested in. Usually think about how does this or that or he or she inspire me, and how will this shape my decision for the future. And thinking about it now, it never it always is a bit difficult to answer, I feel, because when you're talking about inspiration and you're talking about not just yourself but others, it's a really difficult one to answer, and it can vary from person to person on how inspiration works, but such is the way of it, I guess.
What happened was this one summer, my family was holding this barbecue, and my dad's friend was called up to DJ it because he hasn't seen him in a while, and so he was in charge of the music. And all of a sudden, I was introduced by him from my dad, and he asked me, "Hey, would you like to try?" Now, before this, we had all my sisters and I were asked to have a USB ready, and I plugged in my USB with all of my tracks prepared, and I started to DJ on his mixer. And so, apparently, him and my friend, my dad's friend, said that I'm pretty good. And so later on the year, Christmas came along, and I received my first DJ mixer. So the person, I guess, would be my dad's friend, because he opened my eye to my talent.
So when I was in high school, okay, I gotta go a little bit farther back than that. So I'm from the city originally. We moved to the Sunshine Coast like at the very end of my 10th grade year, so I kind of was at a new school for the last 2 months. And then my mom reconnected with with a friend from when she was my age now, because he lived on the coast, and he happened to be like the station manager at the radio station there. And so after a year of us living there, I like got my license, and he offered me a job as like the weekend reporter. Kind of the official position name was cruiser girl. And so I would drive around in the car, and I would go to events in the community, and all that good stuff. I'd be on the air. And flash forward 2 years later, I am at the beginning of my senior year in high school, and my mother threatens me with, like, you better pick what you want to do for school by the end of September or else. And so I was sitting on my best friend's bed on her crappy old laptop looking at programs, and I was like, I don't know what I want to do. And she was like, well, what do you like doing? And originally I wanted to be a teacher, but I was like, oh, I kind of like this radio job that I have. It's like a lot of fun. I'm very independent. I only saw my boss for like once a week for 20 minutes. I had all this like freedom throughout the day, but I was still getting paid, and it was just like, it was really great. I loved the kind of work, how I was like out and about all the time. And then she's like, well, why don't you just do that? And I'm like, all right, I guess. And then so I looked up a radio program. I originally wanted to go to CAP, but then they don't have a radio program. So I was like reading about the BCIT one, and I got like super excited. And so I was like, holy crap, like I have to do this. And then, yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Well, first I just was watching all of their old YouTube videos. Like, C-SPAN has a strange following on YouTube, mostly clips from the 80s and the 90s. And I was born in 1993, so I had an interest in what was going on at the time that I was growing up, before I was old enough to be paying attention. So the first way it manifested was me going back and observing this public affairs show in the past. And then I started kind of gearing more towards audio. We're in a radio broadcasting program here, and the first way that I got into that was through audiobooks. Didn't listen to a lot of radio when I was a kid, but a lot of audiobooks. My dad used to read to me all the time, so I think that's how that started. And then from there, I discovered podcasting in like 2010, maybe. And yeah, I just fell in love with it. I didn't have a lot of friends when I was growing up, but podcasting always makes you feel like you know this person in your ear. If they're good podcasters, they are able to just relax and speak authentically, and after like 10, 20 episodes of listening to these people for hours on end, you feel like you start to know them, and so you develop like this weird relationship with them.
I guess now I feel like, I don't know, like I like office jobs and stuff, but at the end of the day, I just like, I want to be able to like wear whatever I want when I'm at work and, you know, not really have to present myself. And so the thing with radio is that like nobody sees me. So I could be sitting there in my pajamas and nobody would know. Not that I wear my pajamas out of the house, but you know what I mean? I guess like I'm not really sure where I want to go, but I have all these options now. Like I could go anywhere in the world. I could go to Toronto, which is kind of where I'm leaning. Whereas like if I did something else, I might not have been able to do that. So I guess like I have a lot of decisions that I'm going to be making in the next like year, and I have a lot of freedom with them, which is really nice.
You know, I'd like to think inspiration just kind of comes and goes, really, because one day you'd say you'd have this inspiration, and then the other day you'd have that inspiration, and then the next day you just don't know what it is. Because before I used to be inspired by a couple things, say the Gothic macabre of a Tim Burton story, the Orwellian themes of dystopia and totalitarianism, and even the fantastical imagery of Margaret Keane. But now, coming into radio, I don't know what that inspiration is because I don't have it anymore. And I can't just say I'm inspired by any local on-air radio personality or a street team because, one, I probably wouldn't be very honest with myself now, would I? I'd probably just say it for the sake of saying it. And really, thinking about it now, I feel my ideas were a bit grandiose. Or maybe even you could say odd, strange, unusual.
Most people have probably heard of George Orwell. They might have had to read 1984 in high school. But for me, my dad gave me a compilation of his war broadcasts during World War II. Most people know that he's a writer, but not a lot of us know that he himself was in radio, doing a lot of journalistic stuff. He had a lot of trouble keeping the show afloat. Maybe it was too boring, but he knew a lot of journalists across Europe, and he just kept on inviting them on the show, having them cover whatever was going on that year. Obviously, it was a pretty dramatic time to be broadcasting, and I think it was a really heroic thing that he was doing. And so it kept activism and heroism in mind for me in terms of radio and broadcasting. It doesn't just have to be entertainment. It can really be something you believe in.
You know, I've just had a bit of an epiphany that inspiration is just kind of a come and go situation. So, like I've already said, one day you'll have this, one day you'll have that. And really, I just like to think it comes in time, not just in time, in the sense of time, like, you know, be patient, wait for it, it comes in time, but also in the sense of, you know, your inspiration lasts this long, your inspiration lasts this long, and then repeat that cycle again and again. So really, what I could give to you as a final advice is figure out what your inspiration is, figure out how that shapes your decisions, figure out how that shapes your career path, and you never know, maybe in the future you'll finally have that journey's path that you've been looking for. So all I can say to you is good luck, and here's to inspiration in the future, or for the future, perhaps.